But this is harder. Which is better? This? But I'm using both now, which could cause all sorts of problems. I might electrocute myself. But anyway, folks, welcome. I'm really sorry that we're starting a bit late. I am. Please forgive me. And with that, let's get going, because I know we're going to end this thing at 8 o'clock no matter when we started. And so Gear Up is a system that we developed to help people in any organization take their innovation and either create a new market where none exists or disrupt an existing market. So this is not a tool that you need if you're opening a new Thai restaurant, right? Unless you're really disrupting the entire Thai restaurant industry, and relatively few people are good enough as chefs to be able to do that. This is the case if you've got some kind of dramatic new technology, plus hopefully a dramatically more interesting business model, so that you can innovate based on what the thing does, who the team is that's bringing the innovation to market, and also hopefully a very interesting way that you can make a profit without people feeling as though they pay too much. Okay, so that's the basic idea. There are 9 gears. We'll go through all of them pretty quickly. What we normally do is we take the 9 gears and we break them into 3 sets of 3, and we spend about 2 to 3 hours on each set of 3, with at least a day or 2 in between. So this is usually done in a workshop format with people who really would like to take a new idea to market. So hopefully the advertisement will be good enough that you'll invite me back to do the workshop. And we're going to do a secret ballot afterwards, and you can either say, bring him back, don't bring him back, or it depends on how much he charges, whether we should bring him back or not, right? Okay. You're up. I've already mentioned that what it's for. It's a system that will help you create a new market or disrupt an existing market. It's 9 steps, 1 for each gear. And the key thing about this is that you can take this to a group of people who are very technical but aren't very familiar with business, and they don't really like business people. They think of business people as dishonest, greedy, all that sort of thing. So engineers and people who are artists tend to like this because you can learn enough business to really get stuff done without having to rely on business people. On the other hand, business people like it because it's a way to get themselves organized and to work cross-functionally with everything from computer scientists to artists to electrical engineers and so on. It's a great way to get a team together across functional boundaries, organizational boundaries, and across what we call the triple chasm of generation, gender, and culture. For example, we have a single chasm. We're 2 guys, around the same age. You could be my younger brother, right? We have a triple chasm, generation, gender, and culture. So look around and count the chasms that you've got with the people sitting around you. Honestly, so the triple chasms are generation, gender, and culture. Just turn around and look at the people sitting next to you and figure out how many chasms you've got. Why is that important? Because ultimately, no matter whether you master the gears, if you can't build trust across those triple chasms, it's not going to work. You have to have trust because trust creates opportunity, and opportunity is what you really need in order to have people work together to bring an innovation to market. So it's good both for aspiring entrepreneurs, so those of you who are students at the university and are thinking you don't really want to go work for somebody else, you'd like to start a company so you can be your own boss. But it's also for leaders in established organizations, large companies, government organizations, universities. Doesn't matter. By the way, we're going to give all of you a digital copy of this slide deck in both PowerPoint and PDF form. You're welcome to take pictures, but we're going to give you a free copy of the deck if you don't want to take pictures. So those 2 different segments, in the end, we've got the same problem if we're trying to get an innovation to market. First of all, we don't know whether the customers that we are designing this product for really want it. And second, if they want it, we don't know whether they'll pay for it or whether someone else will pay so that they can use it. So that's really what these 2 segments are about. And if you think about the questions that you ask, if you're an entrepreneur, You say, yeah, I've got a great idea. Now what do I do? And what are the steps? What should I consider? And how do I create a plan so that I can actually get the thing to market? If I'm a leader in an established company, often the first thing you have to do is to change the culture of the organization, because there may be things about that culture that will keep an innovation from being successful, no matter how good the product or service. These are the people who created Europe. I don't really run around with a sweater that has Stanford on one lapel and Harvard on the other. Go ahead. Yes, thank you for asking me. And again, anytime you can't hear me, do just as you've done. So I'm very lucky to have two Swedish colleagues who were the main momentum for this book. The first is Lena Romfeld, who's in the center. She taught as a visiting professor at Stanford for 19 years. And then she said, I'm taking our kids back to Sweden because it's getting close to high school age for them, and we don't want them going to an American high school. Let's go back to Sweden where the schools are better. Now, how's the audio now? Can people hear me okay? Okay. And then, so Lena started life as a professor. She's now an angel investor and a very successful cross-border angel investor. Who also teaches, she left Royal Institute of Technology, and she lectures the executive MBA program at Stockholm School of Economics. The tall, good-looking guy on the far right is Jonas Kjellberg. He's the guy who took Skype global. Anybody here use Skype? Many of you may have gone away from Skype for Google Plus Hangout or whatever, but he's the person who successfully brought Skype to virtually every country in the world except China. And my friends in China had to work pretty hard to keep him out, and he's disappointed, but I say, well, you can't have everything. So he's about 6'3", blonde, blue eyes, incredibly good looking, a competitive sailor and bicycle racer. And Lena is about 5'4". She's climbed to Mount Everest base camp twice, leaving the men behind. She's a competitive rower, likes to cycle, and all I can say is, I'm lucky that these athletes don't beat me up, right? I mean, they've been very good to me, even though either one of them could kick my ass. So that's a team. And the reason we're using gears is that we were trying to find some sort of symbolism that made sense. And both Lena and Jonas are big on gears because he races a bike and she does other things that involve gears. I'm not that mechanically inclined, but I can teach the thing even though I could not repair a 10-speed bicycle if you asked me to. I can ride one, but I can't fix them. It works because it combines what we've been learning in Silicon Valley since I started there in 1980, and Lena again spent 19 years there, and Jonas visits enough that he can see what's happening, and he can also compare what's happening in other places around the world. I also spend 20 weeks a year outside Silicon Valley, and so I'm constantly saying, well, this may work in Palo Alto, but will it work in Bangkok? Will it work in Ho Chi Minh City? Will it work in Beijing? We also have some pretty good brands in the center. I taught at Harvard Business School for 7 years and very much enjoyed it and learned a lot about teaching and interacting with students there. I currently teach at Stanford. Lena has taught at Stockholm School of Economics, does teach at Stockholm School of Economics, and Jonas has Skype to his credit. And then what you will see through the slides are cartoons like the ones that are over here, because Jonas is dyslexic. And so he said, I want a book that has few pages, not very many words, and lots of cartoons. Do you have the Thai version? I have an English version. Have Thai? So what we're doing is we're breaking out. Okay. So, no, you keep one. So we're going to pass this around. Please don't steal it. There are not many of these. But this is the newly translated Thai version of Europe. And I'm very grateful to a number of my colleagues who helped make that happen. Okay, so that's why we think it works, those 3 reasons. And you've got the 9 gears. Here they are, right? You start with customers and then delight, and then you figure out how do we get customers to pay. And then will we make money or not? That's called business model. And then you say combination of who will we partner with to take this to market, who is our competition and how are they competing, right? And then we think about if we're going to go global, when and where. So think about it tonight. Do this, not right now, but when we get to the go global part, I want you to be thinking about if I started a business, or no matter about that, where are the 10 places that I would like to do business in the next 10 years? So I want each of you to be thinking about where would you like to be doing business in the next 10 years? And please don't say America, Europe, Africa. Those are continents. And don't just say Canada or the United States. Name the cities in the countries that you'd like to fly into. That's what we'll be doing a little bit later. And then, of course, we've got the team, and reality check simply means what are the risks and how do we manage them so that we don't go off the rails. So how many of you have heard of a man named Steve Blank in customer development? Or maybe Eric Ries. Eric Ries, right? So Steve and Eric have put together something called Lean Startup. And when Steve talks about customer development, he means going to customers and finding out what they need. And so this first year is all about that. He would call that customer discovery. We're calling it customer. And thinking about where is the pain. And you only really understand where the pain is for customers if you spend time with them, not just talking to them, but listening to them, and not just listening to them, but watching them. Because often customers will show you that they need something that they couldn't tell you that they needed. Right? So you go out, you hang out with them, you observe, you sometimes ask questions and say, gee, why did you do that? And through that process, you're going to understand what the pain is. And then and only then can you start to think about how can we help this customer? How can we help them, if you will, cure the pain that they're suffering? And something that Steve Blank and Eric Ries say is very important, and I agree, is you've got to show them prototypes of what it is that you're thinking about. And a prototype can be as simple as you sketch something on a piece of paper and you say, what about this? And once you get past that, trying to do something that is in 3 dimensions is important. So you want people to be able to say, okay, got it. It's about this heavy and about this tall, right? About this fat. It's a lot easier to understand that than if I drew a picture of a bottle on a piece of paper. So go to 3 dimensions as fast as you can and prototype, because the customers can tell you much more about what you need to change if you can show them a prototype, whether it's a physical prototype or whether you have software on your computer that can show them things in 3 dimensions. Either one will be good. Okay, and again, what we're trying to do here is spend time with them so we really understand the pain. Any questions about customer here? Any questions about this one? It's pretty straightforward, right? Well, wait a minute. Well, is it? What I want you to do right now is talk to the person sitting next to you. If there are 3 of you, you talk among yourselves, and come up with an example of a customer that you think it would be interesting to work with, right? So what kind of, I might say, I'd like to work with teenage women, helping them to design fashion products. That would be a very different product or customer than if Wood said, I want to work with middle-aged men who are trying to solve the world's problems, maybe world peace, right? Teenagers in fashion, middle-aged people, world peace would be very different customers. Okay, 1 minute, talk to folks around you and say, what kind of customers would we like to work with? Don't worry about what the product is, just think about what kind of customers would be fun to work with, okay? 60 seconds. Okay, I'm not going to do a quiz on what the customers are. We're going to move on to the next gear, and we'll do these little moments from gear to gear. Okay, the next is you've identified a customer, and maybe you've identified some problem that customer is having. The next gear is about delight. Now, delight is not just solving the problem. Delight is doing something that is so spectacular that that customer is not going anywhere else. So, who has heard of Maslow, Abraham Maslow, and the pyramid of human needs? Anyone? This is, I mean, he was an old dude when I was a young dude, and but he's pretty famous, and he has a pyramid of needs. And we have a rough approximation of part of the pyramid. And down here at the very bottom, you have functionality. So let's imagine for a minute we're talking about ground transportation, talking about cars. So functionality could be, how big is the trunk? Can it store golf clubs? Could be how many seats? Can we take a family, or is it just a two-seater? Does it have a convertible roof that can go down in the sunshine and up when it's raining? That's all functionality. Next is efficiency. How many kilometers can you go per liter of fuel? Or if it's an electric vehicle, how long does it take to charge it up? And how many hours can you go, or how many miles can you go before you have to charge the battery again? Those are efficiency metrics. So the next thing that you've got, though, is something that is so amazing that it creates what we call the delight divide, something that separates your innovation from everything else that's out there. And if we're using cars as an example, then a flying car would be an example of something that is way better than other cars for certain things. Anybody been stuck in traffic here in Bangkok? Yeah, traffic in Bangkok is pretty bad. It's not as bad as Manila. It's not as bad as Beijing at rush hour, but it's pretty bad, right? So imagine you're stuck in traffic, and then your car says, hey, Tom, you want to fly? I'm going, yes, Teresa, I want to fly. And whoop, suddenly, your car sprouts wings, and Teresa's taking you off to wherever you need to go. Teresa's the name of my car, flying car. You all would be able to program a personality into your car, so it's not just that it has wings. It can be male or female, whatever name you want, whatever languages you want it to speak. So a flying car gets me up above the traffic, zips me to where I want to go, and she says, hey, there's 3 floors down in the basement parking lot. There's a spot right by the elevator. You want that one? And I said, yeah, sure. And she goes in, folds her wings, goes down to the 3rd basement floor. As I'm getting off to go to the elevator, she says, have a good meeting. Let those students know that I think they're really cool. Wouldn't that be nice if your car could do all that? So that's delight. It's not just slightly better gas mileage. Okay. Once you have found a way to delight your customers, you have to ask yourself, are the customers who are getting the benefit going to be the ones who pay? Or does somebody else pay? And if so, who are they? And how can you delight them so that they'll pay for whoever is going to be using the innovation? So if we take the flying car example, let's imagine that for flying cars, the government of Thailand has got a new program to try out innovations, and they're looking for university students to be the test pilots on the flying cars. So you can have one, and you don't have to pay for it. They'll buy it for you, but you have to risk your life and go up into the air. In this case, you're risking your lives, but the government's paying for the car that flies around. So think about, is the user the customer? And if we're talking about children's cereal in a household, the users are the kids, but the customer is mom or dad. If you think about many innovations, sometimes an insurance agency or a government agency, or in a big company, you might have a company buying technology that the employees will wind up using. Figure out who uses it and how to delight them, figure out who pays for it, and figure out how to delight them, because they're often not the same people, okay? And so the reason that this thing looks so convoluted is most of us as buyers go from, I had no idea that the flying car existed, through some sort of a process. You're unaware, then you become aware, you think about it, you say, maybe I'll buy one. Then you start to say, flying cars, that sounds pretty good. And you look at the different brands of cars, and you say, well, I prefer the one from this company, or I prefer the one from that company. So you're developing preferences, and then you get to the point that you say, you know what? I'm going to buy a flying car. That's intention. And then you buy it. And then you try it. And if you like it, you tell your friends about it. That's word of mouth, right? And then if you really like it, you'll buy another one when that one's ready to turn in. So this, what we call the hierarchy of effects, it goes from being unaware of the innovation all the way through to beliefs about it, preferences, intention, trial, repeat, and then spreading the word. The reason that this looks so crazy is that we're all different. So our buying process is going to be different depending on who we are, and yet the company that's trying to find those people who might adopt the innovation and pay for it has got to be able to mind all those different pipes, and it has to look for leaks in the pipe. A leak could be a salesperson who offends customers. It could be somebody working in accounting where somebody calls and says, I need customer support. The accounting person says, not my job, click, hangs up the phone, right? Anytime a person in your company is unaware of what the customers need and is unwilling to help them, you've got a leak in the pipe. So your job as a leader of the company is to say, how many different pipes, where are the leaks, how do we fix the leaks, right? And in the end, what you've got is a group of employees in the company who are all so focused on taking care of customers that part of what they love is not just the flying car, it's everybody in the company that brings them the flying car, okay? So that's customer acquisition and getting customers to love you before and after they buy the product. The next is business model. And this pair of words has been used a lot around the world. Especially, there's something called the business model canvas. Are you using that here? It's a canvas that has 9 parts, written by some really wonderful people in Europe, and it's called Business Model Generation is the name of the book. People know that one? So I believe very strongly in the business model canvas, and we have permission from the authors of that book to put the business model canvas in the next edition of Europe. I didn't get permission soon enough, so this one doesn't have that in it, but when we do the workshop, we always use that model. So the canvas basically says, hey, there are 9 different things to think about when it comes to an innovation. One is to target customers, then there's a value proposition. So that is our customer gear and our delight gear, same thing. And then you think about distribution. How do you get that product to the customers? Then you think about the customer relationship. How do you manage that relationship? Are you doing it face-to-face? Are you using technology? How are you building the relationship? And then you have to think about what are the activities we've got to do? And what are the key resources and assets that we need in addition to the activities? And then what about our partners? And then what are the costs and what are the revenues? We're not going to show you a slide of business model canvas, but I want you to know that if you use it, you can use it with Europe for sure. Now, something we have that is not in the business model canvas is something called the zero game. And we're going to play it. We're going to go back in time before there was anything like Amazon.com or the other online booksellers. Okay, set of questions, and I'm going to give you a few seconds, and then I'm going to ask for answers. Imagine that we're back in the age of brick and mortar bookstores, meaning there are buildings with books in them that you can buy. What is the most expensive item on the income statement of a bookseller if they're selling books with retail stores? What do you have to pay the most for? What's your highest cost item? What do you think?
Encyclopedia.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think almost. No, almost. The inventory is really important. It's number 3. What's an asset?
Land.
Yes. What's on the land?
Shop. Location.
Yep.
Shop.
So it's the land with a building on it, right? You got it. So the most expensive thing that you're paying for if you're selling books at retail is land and a bookstore on the land, right? Now, what's in between that and inventory? Inventory is number 3. What's the next biggest expense that Amazon got rid of when it went online with books? Come on. What used to happen when you went to the bookstore? Yes! Oh, my God. Fantastic. So number 2 is the people. Remember when you go to the bookstore and you say, I'm looking for a copy of Stephen Covey's The Secrets of Highly, whatever it is, people, and sales clerk is doing, I know where it is. I know where it is. Go find it. Probably in business or maybe psychology, I don't know. So you're paying a lot of money for salaries for people who were not very good at what they did. So Jeff Bezos goes, no more land, no more buildings, no more people, and much less inventory, right? Because if you've got 2 or 3 warehouses for the entire United States, you don't have to have as many books as if you have 1,000 bookstores, right? And then in some cases with 1,000 bookstores, you run out of books or you have too many of the wrong kind of book. So with that change in the way that people did business in the book selling industry, Jeff Bezos was playing what we call the zero game. Take a high cost item, try to drive it to zero. If you can't drive it to zero, drive it low. Okay? We don't have time to do an exercise, but I want you to think about products and services that you use all the time. And if you could start a company to drive the competition out of business, how would you play the zero game? How could you play it in a completely different category other than books, which Jeff has already done? Okay. So I think the main thing is, if you can get your cost dramatically lower than everybody else, you can make a profit while pricing below everybody else. And the goal here is for a sustainable business. If you want to have a triple bottom line, at least you have to have a profit on the profit bottom line. Once you do that, and while you're doing that, you can also have a good impact on society and on the environment. But if you go out of business because your costs are too high, then you're not going to be sustainable. Okay, next gear. Partners. Now, when I started with this is called an earning learning matrix. This is earning. This says partners on this side go from you're not making very much money with this partner, that would be the poison partner, all the way up to what we call a Jurassic partner. The T-Rex, it can bring home a lot of money for you. But the T-Rex in this case doesn't want to innovate. Kind of an old-fashioned kind of guy. He's saying, don't innovate with me. Just when the product has been tested and so on, come to me then and we'll sell a lot of them. So in terms of thinking of a company that's like a Jurassic partner, if you've ever shopped at Walmart, Walmart's a company that sells a lot of stuff. So it's very important to the companies that sell their products through there. But Walmart is saying, I'm going to get you to lower your prices. I'm going to innovate in lots of ways that I can as a retailer, but don't come to me with a product that's 2 years away from being able to sell at scale. I make my money by selling millions of whatever it is. Don't come to me if you want to just sell a few. So this is the axis that has to do with revenue and profit. The learning axis is, are there companies that help you develop the next generation of your product or service so that you can keep innovating, so that you can keep delighting by doing something new? So again, poison partner, not much learning, not much profit. The playmate partner is helping you to learn to do new things, but there's still not very much revenue. And often you like working with the playmate partner because they're smart, they're fun, even if you're not making a lot of profit doing it. All the way out on the learning axis is what we call learning partners. These again are not generating a lot of profit for you, but they're actually leading you to new innovations. If you go on the farthest axis, remember these are people who are helping you innovate. A learning partner can grow into a partner that Jonas calls ammo in a war. And by that he means your innovation can be something that helps one of your partners fight the battles in that partner's war. That's what that one means. A strategic partner is the most useful to you as a company because you've got lots of profit, but they're also innovating with you, pushing the cutting edge. Now, a couple of things to think about here. And by the way, the spam partner and the love or hate partner are just intermediate states. When I did this before Jonas came along, it was just 4 cells because I'm a simple guy. It was like earning partner, learning partner, strategic partner, and poison partner. But whether you have 9 cells or 4, the idea is the following. You want to balance a partner's ability to help you innovate. Some can do that really well. And some partners can really help you make money and profit once the innovation's ready. And so you want some in each of the outlier cells. Ideally, you'd have a couple of Jurassic partners, a few strategic partners, some learning partners, and if ever you have poison partners, what I do is to say to them, I really like working with you, but unfortunately, we're the wrong company for you to work with. I think you should work with Company X. Company X is my leading competitor. Partner goes, okay, goes over to Company X and starts to partner with them. But I say, don't tell Company X that I sent you because I keep this secret, okay. So you send your poison partners to the competition and you figure out how to have enough earning partners, Jurassic partners, and strategic partners. A quick example here. Applied Materials, which is a company that makes the equipment they make semiconductors or chips out of, had a problem with reliability in manufacturing. It had to find a semiconductor company that would be a learning partner. It went to a little company called Intel, which at the time was not that large a company, but Intel was really known for high quality manufacturing and keeping machines going. So Intel helped Applied Materials to fix the reliability problem, but then something interesting happened. Intel kept getting bigger, and bigger, bigger, and bigger, and Intel wound up a strategic partner. At the same time, IBM, which had been a strategic partner to Applied Materials, said no longer can you use the innovations that we come up with your other customers. So IBM went from strategic to Jurassic. The reason I'm giving you this example is your relationships with partners can change. So make sure you know which cell they're in, and then pay attention because they might change cells. Okay, competitors. You've got to do two things with respect to competition. One, know what game your competitors are playing, and two, decide what game you're going to play. And we borrowed an idea from a wonderful book called Blue Ocean Strategy. And if you haven't read the book, I encourage you to read it. But if you don't have time to read the book, read this chapter. And so they basically say two kinds of competition. One is in a commodity market. You may not be able to tell the difference between one kind of salt and another, or one kind of sand and another, right? In that kind of market, you outperform, which means you've got to be better or faster or cheaper or more secure and safe, or some combination of those things, because people are going to come buy salt, and it either has to be a slightly better salt, or you can get it to them right when they need it, like when they're at a restaurant, or it has to be less expensive, or it has to be safer. You don't put the salt on your food and then get sick when you use it. So that's called the outperformance strategy. In the blue ocean strategy, you're creating a market where none exists, and what you want to be doing there is changing the game. So we call that type of strategy game changer. And the person doing the game changer strategy is saying, we're going to go into a completely new market. So if somebody came up with a flying car, that's a game changer. If you're working in the regular automobile industry, if you're Toyota or Honda or Mercedes or BMW, then you're trying to outperform on something, either better, faster, cheaper, safe. Right? So those are the two kinds of strategies. Know what your competitors are doing, know what you're going to play. This is my favorite gear. It really is. Because I think if more of us spend more time in countries other than our own and get to know how to work and earn trust of people that are not from where we're from, the world will be better. I think it'll be more peaceful, it'll be more fun. So going global, you have to think about where do we go? And you also have to think about how do we earn trust of people once we get there? And when I was talking earlier about that triple chasm of generation, gender, and culture, I love Thailand, but I have to say, there's this humongous chasm that I'm facing with all of you, because I'm not Thai. I love the food, but that doesn't qualify, right? That's not enough. So I have that cultural chasm that I'm trying to overcome as best I can tonight. How are we doing? Is it getting better? Because we have a triple chasm. I mean, you could hate me. Do you hate me? Hopefully not. Okay. Right? So we have the cultural chasm, which can be compounded by if your customers are in a different generation, or if you're a guy trying to market products. Remember I was saying teenage girls with fashion. I've got a real problem if I'm going to be successful in that business unless I have a number of teenage women who are my co-founders helping me to get it done. Because the last time I was a teenage girl was never. Right? Okay. So, going global again, it's partly where do you go in what order, and then how do you deal with these cultural chasms once you get there. This year we could spend hours on it, and I'm not going to because it really needs more depth than you can do in a short presentation. The key idea here is in an innovation process, there are different roles. And you have to think about what role do I like to play? What would I really enjoy? For example, you might say, I want to be the lead salesperson in this startup. Or you might say, I don't like people. I like to develop things. I'm going to be the coder, so please don't ask me to go talk to customers. And so the roles include the administrator, which is a person who makes sure things get done properly, often underpaid and underappreciated, but very important. The producer is a person who can go out and raise money or sell, important. The delivery man is a person who can fix all sorts of problems, just a great person to have around, very humble, and you can say, we need a dinner for 47 in 2 hours, and the delivery man can get it done. Or you can say the Wi-Fi is not working, we don't know why, and the delivery man can fix the Wi-Fi. The innovator here is pictured as a younger female, or a short guy in a dress. Either way, you shouldn't think that the only innovators in a company are older and wiser. In fact, all of us have the ability to innovate, and finding that innovative spark in the people you work with is really important to you if you're going to be a leader. So we look for the innovator in each of us, and we say, well, even though she's shorter than us and doesn't look like us and doesn't dress like us, we should not ignore her because she could be the source of the innovation that allows us to create a new market. The talent is someone who really knows how to do whatever is really most crucial. So it could be if you're Google, they really care about having the right kind of technologists to be able to push that business forward. They're less worried about accounting. To be honest, they really care about making sure the right computer scientists join the company. They also don't care much about marketing. I've had conversations with Larry Page about it. So for Google, talent is technical. For Disney, right, talent is something else. You have two different kinds of technical people working in a technology startup. The coder is shy, says, please leave me alone, feed me and let me code in peace. The geek likes people. Fashionably dressed, wants to go out and talk to customers. In that circumstance, make sure you don't make the coder go out. Let the coder work, send the geek out, let him or her talk to the customers, figure out what they need, and then come back and work with the coder to create what needs to be done. The integrator is a person who helps all these different roles work together in an effective way, and the mascot is whatever you want it to be. Do you know what Stanford's mascot is? Who knows? It's green. It has leaves. It is yes! It's the tree! Did you know that or did you guess that? You guessed right. This table has like 100% hit rate for right answers to the question. That's awesome. Okay. That tree. Why the heck Stanford has a tree, I won't go into tonight. The key idea is mascots are good because they can either symbolize something about the company or they can also help the people in the company treat each other a little better. Imagine you just don't like somebody, but you like cats, and the company mascot is a cat. Is that mine or yours? Supposed to win it. Okay, so if you saw somebody you didn't like feeding the cat and petting the cat, you might go, well, not such a bad guy, right? He likes cats, I like cats. So think about having a mascot, even if your company doesn't have one. The last gear is about managing risk. We call it reality check. And what we do is you brainstorm with your team, what are the things that could go wrong that would keep us from being successful? And the most common sources of risk start out with customers. Will they buy the product? Do we really know who they are and what they need? Customer risk is a big deal. And are there enough of them? It could be that you have a small number of customers that are excited about the product, will pay you, but not enough to grow a company. The second area of risk has to do with your product itself. If it's a technology product, then it's about technology. Will this stuff work? Will the car fly? Right? That's technology risk. The third is risk about the team. Are the people here really good at what they do so they can get things done? But even more important, are they what we call people magnets? A people magnet is someone that other people trust so that other people will join the venture. And we've all met people who are brilliant and really good, but we hate them, right? Because they're obnoxious and they treat people badly. If you don't have people in the venture that other people trust and will join, you've got a problem because the venture can't grow. So, right, we got customers, technology, team, and the last risk that we talk about in Silicon Valley has to do with funding, and it doesn't mean we have enough money. It means what was the valuation when you had your last round of financing? Because if you wind up with people paying too much for the early shares of stock, later investors don't want to invest because your company is overvalued. Now, in addition to those four types of risk, there are two others that I'd ask you to consider. One has to do with intellectual property. Can you protect it? Is there something unique about your innovation that you can either have a patent or a trademark or some kind of intellectual property so that you could license that patent to other people and let them make products so that you could make money if you're not doing it all yourself? And the last area of risk is what I would call government/environment. If you're going into a new country, is the government that's in that country at the national and the state and the local level, are those governments that you can trust to work with? For example, if you were leaving Thailand and if you're going into Brazil, Brazil's a very different country. So there are going to be some elements of risk because you don't know the governments there. It's not that Brazil's a bad place. It's that you don't know how the governments operate and you have to learn how. Same way, if you go to Vietnam or if you go to China, if you go to the US, there's going to be some government risk because we don't know how the government operates there. So you identify the kinds of risks, and then you start with how could we prevent them from happening? Make a list of how you prevent them. And then you say, well, what if they happen anyway? What's our contingency plan? And if you do that once a month or at least once a quarter with your company, you're going to be able to anticipate things that could go wrong and prevent them. Even better, if you're in the habit of doing this reality check, when something happens you hadn't expected, you can react better, faster, because you're used to thinking, okay, bad things happen, what do we do if they do? What's our contingency plan? And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have gone through all 9 gears without my ringer ringing, which means either the ringer's broken or no. I think we're okay. We have time for questions. So the admonition I have is sync your gears, which means get your shit together. And if you've got an idea for an innovation, find people who you want to work with to make it happen. And we hope you'll consider using Gear Up as a way to work together. But whether or not you use Gear Up, it's time to get started. The world needs your innovation, so let's get it out there. Now, I'm not going to read this. Let's just say I was born. I'm still here. I love Thailand, and we can talk about it at the break. More important, oh no, this is like long ago and far away. He was born, he's done a bunch of stuff, blah, blah, blah. No. Oh yeah, we had to have the time. Who is this? So if you're curious about this, we'll talk about it later. But I'm really grateful. Oops, sorry. I'm really grateful to Gear Up Asia. If I could ask my colleagues in Gear Up Asia just to stand and raise your hands. We got 2 of the 3 here. And please talk to them after this this session is over, because, and also, can you guys be here for Q&A? If they have a question, we'll do it as a team. I would not be here without 2 organizations. One is Gear Up Asia, and the second is AA. How many of you use AA paper? Some? So 2 great companies, Gear Up Asia, which is in the innovation business, and AA Paper, which is in the innovation business. Okay, with that, I'll say we're done. And we have We're out of here at 8 o'clock, so if anybody has some questions, go for it. If you're tired and you want to leave, leave. It's okay. Yes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come give the mic so everybody can hear the person.
Which gear is the most important one?
The answer to which gear is the most important is there's not one answer because in a way it's the gear that's jammed, right? If your people are the problem, no matter if all the other gears are working well, then the people gear will jam it up and will keep you from being successful. In a sense, just like if we were riding a bicycle or had machinery that had multiple gears, they all have to work. Because if one jams,
Major gear that drive the other one.
okay, so you're saying we should have a major gear that drives the others. I'm not a mechanical engineer. I bet you're right. I bet you're right. So let's go back. Let me go back and look at the gears for a minute, and let's have a vote. Okay, wait. Let's get. I may need help getting this on. I don't think so. Did somebody? Here we go. Oh. So I don't use mice. I want somebody to make. Is that it or that? I just want to make that go to the full screen using that. I haven't ever used a mouse. So we've got the 9 gears. Remember, we start with customers and delight, customer acquisition, business model. Then we got the team, and we got partners, and we got competitors, and we got going global, and we got reality check. So I would say you don't start with the reality check probably, right? Because you have to have something that could create risk, so that's probably not the central gear. I think the reason that customer acquisition is bigger than everything else and is in the center is the following. You could have customers, and you could have a really delightful product, but if you don't figure out how to get them to pay for it, you go out of business. So I think you need customers certainly, and you need delight, but without customer acquisition, this is the process by which people say, yes, I will pay you. So I would say that one's really important. And I think business model is also very important because you could be generating a lot of revenue, but if you haven't thought about your costs relative to the revenue coming in, you could actually go bankrupt while your revenues are going up. Does it make sense? So I think if you had customers and delight but didn't know how to get the customers to pay, you've got a big problem. And if you don't figure out how to actually make a profit while your revenues are coming in, you have a really big problem. But don't forget, if you don't have customers, you got nothing, right? So a lot of us start out with an innovation, a really good idea that we think the world will love, but we can't find customers who'll pay. So in a way, the most important gear is these 2 gears together. Customers willing to pay, or customers willing to talk somebody else into paying for them. Like a kid that says, Mom, we need that new color TV. And Mom says, no, we don't. Mom, we need that color TV. So it could be the kid plus the parents. Yes?
Tom, normally when we talk about gear number 1, building customer or try to find where your customer is. The normal approach is to get the pain point or try to identify pain point. That's normal approach. But in the case of say the iPhone or there's no pain point. Everybody has, there's no real pain about using normal phone. But then there was one guy that came up with an idea that you need better phone. You need something that is more than just normal phone that you used to have.
Yep.
How is there any kind of a guideline or anything that can help anyone that would like to come up with something that never exists, never solved any problem before, but maybe create a problem for it to solve?
So I've always given the example that we had phones before the iPhone, right? And it wasn't like we were in pain with no solution. We had phones. We talked on the phone. We even had some that, like the Trio, which was one that I bought, and the BlackBerry, where you could do everything else. And the question is, how do you do what Steve Jobs did? take a category that everybody thought they knew what it was, and suddenly, oh, I didn't know I needed that, right? I do this double to make sure that I don't forget. So this is what I think. If all of us look at things that are, you sort of say, well, this is a notebook, right? Everybody has a notebook, everybody has a pen. What? Do we really need? I mean, this is just fine the way it is. If you can take things as they are and say, what can we do that's so dramatically different that people would switch from what they're comfortable with? Why would any of us switch from a notebook? See, you have a pen and a notebook. Why would you switch to something that was, electronic version of that? Or maybe something that you don't ever have to write again. You can just talk and the stuff appears on a page. It's looking at what's expected, what everybody's used to, and saying, what if we completely turn that upside down? Now, you want to do that in areas where there can be a profound benefit so that people will pay you a premium for having found this need that nobody thought they had, right? And so I'm going to give an example related to the iPhone. I did buy the iPhone the first day it was on sale, but I didn't do it because I needed the iPhone. I did it because I didn't like my Trio and I didn't like my BlackBerry. You said there was no pain. I did not like the cell phones that were there, but I lived in the U.S. The problem in the U.S. is we have crappy towers and crappy wireless. I don't know what it's like here in Bangkok, but I can be driving from my house to Palo Alto in a civilized part of the world, and I can drop the call 3 times, right? So what did Steve Jobs do about that? You'd be interested to know that Steve Jobs went to AT&T and gave them an exclusive for 3 years on the iPhone if they built a new wireless network that worked. And so the pain point was drop calls. No, stop. What you thought was the reason that the iPhone was successful was that it had all this shit on it. Actually, to my astonishment, I used to go down to IBM Labs in Santa Teresa, which was a 45-mile drive from my house. I would have the calls drop 17 times in 45 miles, 17 times. And I'd be trying to talk on the phone. It wasn't working very well. So I'm headed down to Santa Teresa with my new iPhone, and I'm talking, and I'm going, this is weird. The calls aren't dropping. Even weirder, the guy at Santa Teresa who is, imagine that this is a speakerphone, and the guy at Santa Teresa is up here writing on the board and talking at the speakerphone. Normally, when I was using my phones prior to the iPhone, I could barely hear him when the call was on, and it dropped 17 times. Now, what am I telling my friends about the iPhone after I get 45 miles with 1 drop call and with pristine audio? I'm saying this is a phone that's a real phone. The calls don't drop. You can hear what the person's saying on the other end. Hallelujah. It's the first cell phone in my entire life that actually you can talk into and hear what's going on. Nobody knew that he did that. He made an exclusive with the largest carrier in the U.S. that built a new wireless thing that nothing but iPhone and iPad worked on. Now, on that same network these days, because there are so many iPhones and so many iPads, it's not quite as good as it used to be, but it's still better than any other network in the U.S. So I think the answer is, you're saying we didn't need a better phone, but in the United States, at least, we needed a better wireless system, a wireless communication system, and Steve couldn't do it alone, so he found a partner called AT&T. I guess you did. No. I don't know whether, should we let him do another or should we move on? Huh? Move on. Right? Okay. Yeah, because you're my friend, and if I let you tie us up, you're not your other. Oh, you're going to help too. Okay, if they call back there, you grab them. If they call up here. Oh, come on, guys. Look.
I have 2 questions for you, Professor. The first one is, can you go back to the Gear 1 customer? I'm quite not sure what do you mean by prototype to be.
Okay.
like because I read in Thai and I couldn't catch up with the English version.
Okay,
And
so
it said
question
prototype.
one is about customers and prototype, right?
Yeah, prototype should be like fast to be made and something.
Yeah, okay, but can you let me answer question one before you ask question two? Because I can't hold them both. You can ask both.
Okay, so you answer the first question first, right?
Let me do,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
but then we'll come back. Okay. And I may need help from somebody to get to this quickly. No. Actually, your one should be pretty quickly. Okay. So here, down here, we're talking about prototyping and iterating. And let me make sure I understood the question.
Yeah, you said it has to be fast and has to be.
So a prototype is just, it's a rough model of what the real product's going to look like. So the quickest prototype you can have is just sketch it on a piece of paper. So that's a two-dimensional thing that kind of looks like whatever the thing is. And what you want to do, I think the thing I was talking about is do something really quickly, and it doesn't have to be perfect. A lot of times people will say, well, we don't want to show anybody a prototype till it looks really good. And it takes them 7 months. And so they build something really beautiful, and the customer says, that's terrible, I hate it. But if they had drawn it on a piece of paper, the customer could have told them several things not to do. And then they do, the next one is 3D, but it doesn't have to really look, let's imagine, I don't know how, can I borrow this for a minute and this? So let's imagine that, you want some sort of a staple gun. So imagine this is where the staples come out and you have something with a lot of staples. And you don't actually build a staple gun. You say, well, you're going to have a big part for the staples and then a part that has really small staple apertures so you can get it into tight places to staple where it's hard to get. So this will be a prototype that's 3D, that doesn't really look like the staple gun, but you can imagine what I'm talking about because I said staple gun and then I said a few other things. So that's the idea. Prototypes don't have to be elegant. Just if you can do 4 of them that are kind of not so elegant instead of 1, you're going to learn a lot more about what the customers want. Second question.
Second question is, I know that there are so many people out there and here as well that they want to start their own business.
Yes.
And I think I'm sure that a lot of people here might agree with me that the hardest point is to start to do it, to make it happen. So if you think this gear up 9 gears model would work, I'm quite not sure because I think it's very hard because in reality it might not be like exactly what theories say. So how do you recommend us to try to apply these theories into practice?
So great. So everybody here, Europe's a nice theory, but like a lot of other theories, if you're going to start a company, the hard part is doing it. And so what I told you guys earlier about Europe is I don't like giving talks like this. What I like is a workshop that's 3-hour sessions long, where people come in and they have a rough idea. Often what will happen is, let's say we have this larger group, and I'd say, do any of you have an idea for a new product, a new business? And about 20% of the people would raise their hand. I'd have the people who have an idea for business come up, and then I'd say you have 1 minute to describe to your classmates your idea. And each one would do that, and then I'd say to the classmates, go join the person whose idea you like the best. And so sometimes you'd have 7 people on a team, sometimes 3, but you can, in a group this size, create teams that we could actually do gear up on real ideas. And by doing it on real ideas and doing a little bit and then going out and talking to customers in between the sessions, we very quickly figure out whether the idea is good as it stands or whether it needs to change or whether it's terrible and we need to start something else.
So do you have these kinds of workshops that I can apply?
No. Oh, no, do I have? Yes, you
workshops.
Come to Vietnam.
Oh, Vietnam.
In August.
Okay.
No, the thing is, but if you don't speak Vietnamese, that might not be the right place to go. So we do these workshops all the time. And if you're interested, any of you who are interested, if you, let's see, probably easiest is we make a little email list of the people who want to know when they are. But even better, I want to come back to Thailand. So get your university to pay me to do the workshop your way. Honestly, I would love to come back and do it with you guys. And it's not just me. What we're trying to do is in every country to get people who are good at innovating, who are good with working with people. You teach. I could teach you, Gary. Go through a session once. You team teach with me the second time. And the third time, you can lead a workshop helping other people to use Gear Up to either start new products or start new companies. Okay?
Thank you.
So I'll come back if you pay me, but not if you don't. Anybody else? Is that me again? How did I do that? I guess I said two on the same. Okay, it is now. Yes, we have a little more time. Yep.
Dr. Kosnik, I wonder why don't you put the leader or leadership in the team? Because without this, every gear will not move because they need a driver to move. Like you are facing now in the USA now for the president. This is the one who drive everything to put it move.
Good. So the question is, why do we have a team with all those roles in it and no leader, right? So no. I think it's a really good point. Let me get to that gear. Okay, now in the book, in fact, where is the book? Bring the book to him, wherever it is. So in the book, the part before these roles is something called the evangelist. Now, the evangelist is a person with a vision who can persuade other people to join him or her, to join his or her team. So I should have, and it's my bad, I should have evangelist on this side as well. So imagine there's another person right here. Now, the thing is that at the beginning, at the beginning of a new product or a new venture, this skill set or a person who can do this will be the leader, because the leader is the one bringing the rest of the team together. But what the leader does will change as the venture grows. So at some point, you're going to need an integrator. And if you just think of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was an evangelist. He could get all sorts of people to come to his side, but he needed someone else to work with him, because an evangelist alone as a company grows is not enough. So I would say the leader roles are evangelist plus integrator. And again, the integrator is a person who can get the people in all those other roles to work together effectively to make the innovation happen. And we don't use the word leader. We could, but the thing is, different roles could be the leader depending on where you are. Great question, though. Anything else? Okay. It's 7:55, and we're done. So I would say to all of you, thank you for giving us your evening. We'll hang around for a few minutes if you want afterwards, but just have a great rest of evening, rest of week, rest of month, rest of quarter, rest of year. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the year. I hope you guys do too. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. On behalf of the school, I would like to express our gratitude because you are nice and very knowledgeable talk today.